It's Fill Your Plate Now, where every bite brings you closer to the farm gate and further from what's unhealthy. Now here's your hosts, Julie and Tammy, helping you live well by filling your plate well.
So Tammy, we've had 2 episodes that dealt with our Arizona wines, and now we're about to have our 3rd episode as it relates to Arizona wines. What's different this time is we're bringing on the winemaker, the wine grape grower.
You brought all those wine-related guests on, which tells me in your spare time you're doing a lot of tasting.
I'm doing a lot of taste testing, and I have even done taste testing at Cove Mesa. In fact, that's the couple that we're interviewing today. It's Emil and Cindy Mullen. They are co-owners of the Cove Mesa Vineyard. It's an ultra-premium winery located in Cornville, Arizona, in the Verde Valley, in the American viticulture area, the Verde Valley viticulture area. It's kind of fun. Emil, you'll tolerate me sharing all this, that I'd love to tell their background because Emil was also a former deputy insurance commissioner with a 30-year career and a law degree. And then Cindy, you are a engineer, an aeronautics engineer, and so their passion has always been wine, and so that's one of the reasons why, as they were leaving their other careers, they ended up saying, "Hey, we're ambitious enough to start another business."
A second career in winery. That sounds like a lot of fun, actually.
And another fun thing about, go ahead.
I think a lot of people would say we were crazy.
And so they have a tasting room, and Emil, you graduated from Yavapai College, their viticulture, and got a degree in viticulture.
And enology program.
Yeah.
Yes.
And, that same
I
year.
actually graduated in 2017 from that.
2017? And then that same year, you planted your first 350 vines, some unique grapes, and we'll ask you all about that. But so I'm going to just launch into my first question. What drew you to Arizona as a place to start your winemaking journey after retiring from your career in insurance and Cindy's in aerospace engineering?
Well, actually, we moved to Tucson in 99. And lived there for 16 years before we moved up here to the Verde Valley. And when we lived
because of my job there, I retired from Raytheon Missiles down in Tucson.
Awesome.
I have to say that I really was not aware of the wine industry at all before we moved here in 99. And of course, it was still really young at that point, not very big. Still not very big, but it's much bigger than it was back then. And because we love wine, we made quite a few trips over the years down to Sonoyta, which was the first American viticultural area in Arizona. I don't know, somewhere between 25 and 30 years ago, they got their AVA designation. And so we started drinking wine primarily from Kent Callaghan's winery down there. And then over the years, we got to know people in the industry and found out about Wilcox. That was kind of a newer place to plant and much more hospitable for grapes than Sonoyta. And we just, our knowledge and interest in the Arizona wine industry has kind of grown up with the industry because we've now been here 27 years. And I don't think at the beginning I even thought about having a winery. I did think about having a vineyard. I've always wanted to have a vineyard, but never thought about having a winery. But I think Arizona fruit and Arizona wine can be some of the best in the world. And it has really improved and grown by leaps and bounds over the 26 years we've been involved with it. And Arizona wine made correctly is very much like European wine. not
Yes.
not very much like California wine.
And
And
trying your wine has let me know that. But I have a question for Cindy too along this lines. As you saw Emil kind of going in this direction, maybe he led it, maybe you did. Like, what was your inspiration to say, I'm going to jump in with both feet as well?
Well, I was getting ready to retire and I was a bit nervous. What will Cindy do? Because I'm not the type to go out to lunch and do that kind of stuff. Like I want to be kept busy. I want to be having a vision for life. So when he talked about this, I said, okay, we can do it and we're going to do it right. And that's what we're doing. So we are having a great time. I will say, I thought the missiles was a hard thing to do. Farming is the hardest business I've ever been in. You can't control all the variables. Farming is what I say is God's work. I mean, it is hard.
Wow.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, that is quite a switch, but you all must love it because you said 26 years, and that's amazing. And over the 26 years, I know last week we got a little taste of some of the warmth coming up for the summer. And you all probably do not get it quite as extremely as we do down here in the valley, but how do you deal with the challenges of the extreme temperatures that we have here in Arizona?
Well, actually, I know a lot of people are shocked that you can grow grapes in the desert, but the Arizona wine industry, where all the vineyards are, both down in the Wilcox and Sonoyta area and up here in the Verde Valley, we have the largest diurnal shift. That's the difference between the cold morning temperature and the hot afternoon temperature. We have the largest diurnal shift of any wine growing region in the world other than Mendoza down in Argentina. And we're pretty close to what they have too. I mean, theirs isn't dramatically larger than ours. And that's really what allows us to grow really good grapes. Yet there are challenges with the heat. We have a very short growing season. Most places in North America that say they have a short growing season, it's because there's not enough sun and not enough good temperature to grow. And so everything has to be done in a short period of time or things don't get ripe. We have just the opposite problem. We have so much sun and so much heat that everything gets ripe in a very short period of time. And so we actually have one of the shortest growing seasons, I think, in the entire world for grapes. And, as you pointed out, it can get extremely hot. I mean, even down in Wilcox, Sonoyta's a little bit cooler, but even down in Wilcox and up here, we're frequently harvesting when it's 110 to 115 degrees. That's a problem. You have to harvest at night. You have to get the grapes off the vine as quickly as possible and get them out of the heat. They'll start fermenting in the containers when they're still out in the vineyard if you don't get them somewhere
I
cool
didn't
pretty
think
fast.
about that. Wow.
Yeah.
So,
And yes.
So, talk about then your varieties that you grow and why you grow the variety of grapes that you grow up in the Verde Valley versus maybe what you might grow if you were down in Cochise County.
Well, actually, I would say in general, the varieties that do well up here are the same ones that do well down south. It is shocking. We go to Europe virtually every year. I think as a couple, we've probably been to Europe close to 50 times. And we know a lot of people in Europe, in the wine industry, restaurant industry. We just know a lot of people. And they are really kind of shocked that we have so many different wines. Because most wine regions only have a handful of grapes that they grow, kind of like Napa Valley, which is just famous for basically Cab and Chardonnay, primarily. And most wine regions in the world are like that. They do not have a wide range of grapes that they grow. But here in Arizona, we grow a lot of Italian, French, and Spanish grapes. And for the most part, I think that they are as good or better than where they originated. It's kind of shocking that we have that versatility. There are only a few grapes that don't do well here. Pinot Noir, just because Pinot Noir and Nebbiolo, because this just isn't the right kind of an environment for them. They grow just fine here, but they don't get the phenolic ripeness and complexity that they do in Oregon or Burgundy or in Piemonte in Italy. So those grow fine, but they just don't make good wine, in my opinion. Not very good wine. The real problem we have is that because grapes are getting ripe frequently during monsoon season, there are certain grape varieties where the clusters are either too tightly packed so they don't dry out, or the skins are thin, so they're not protected as well as they could be from mold, and so the few things like Zinfandel does not do well here at all. Chenin Blanc, which is one of my favorite white grapes, also for the same reason doesn't do well here. Pretty much everything else grows really well here. And now there is a difference, terroir, which encompasses everything about where a grape grows: soil, altitude, humidity, wind, everything you can think of, all rolled up into one word called terroir. Up here, my vineyards are pretty much solid limestone. I mean, they are extremely difficult to deal with, very slow to get grapes acclimated, established. Most of the vineyards down in Wilcox are not heavy limestone vineyards. They have more topsoil. And so a grape from a vineyard down there might be equal quality, but tastes completely different.
Right.
The wine that comes, and actually vineyards that are across the road from each other, even down in Wilcox, the wine tastes completely different.
Huh.
So everywhere that you grow a grape, they are so tied to the soil with their personality, everything about their personality, that it has a huge impact on what the wine tastes like.
That's why I've always had so much fun trying Arizona wine, because it is really good and it's award winning. A lot of people don't. You guys have competed on the state, national, international level, and you walk away with a lot of awards. Cove Mesa is the same way. You've won several awards with your wine. And it looked like you were about to ask a question, Tammy.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was fascinating with the limestone. Tell us a little more about how the soil and the climate and the elevation influence the taste profile on your grapes.
Well, the number one influence it's had so far is that it's taking a lot of years to get decent harvests here. We had to rip our vineyards with D9 caterpillars with 48-inch hooks on the back for a month before we could plant. And even then we had to use jackhammers to get vines into the ground because, even though we broke up rock, it's still there,
It's still rock.
It's not like you could,
Wow.
yeah, it's still rock. And so that's the number one thing. And also here in the Verde Valley, our soil is very high in carbonate. It's very high pH. And the water is also high pH. And the two things together create a very strong bond which locks up nutrients and actually locks up water.
Ah.
It locks up the soil to the point that it cannot absorb water very well.
Mm.
And so you have to do a lot to change the soil in that regard, change the pH of the soil so that it is not bound up. I'm in the process of putting 2 tons per acre of sulfur on my vineyards. Anybody who owns a farm here in Arizona knows that they're always putting a lot of sulfur on their soil. But the amount we need to put on up here is dramatically higher than in most areas.
So Emil, I'll have to tell you, I don't know if you remember this. It was myself and Amber Morin when we came up and visited the two of you. And I do remember.
Yes, when you were sitting out on our patio, I remember very well.
And I would have said jackhammer, but that's what it seemed like because they were trying to break up the soil. But I do remember the challenges that you were facing. So my question is for Cindy. If the two of you have had at least 50 trips to Europe, you have tried, and I know that you are connoisseurs of great wine tasting. I know you've tried it. What makes, in your experience, Cindy, what makes Arizona wines so special to you? If you can set them apart by some kind of descriptor, feel free. But why are Arizona wines so special?
I think because I can really taste the soil, the weather, and like what the farmer has put into the wine. And each wine tastes different. So you're not tasting the same thing. So it's so much fun to taste like 4 white wines that came from the same vineyard, and different people made the wine. They taste 4 different ways. I mean, it's so much fun, you know.
Yeah.
Emil can say anything.
Yeah. So one thing that I think Cindy and I both really like elegant wine. So we are not fans of the big, huge, oaky tasting, over extracted California wines that have become the norm for the American palate. We don't, I used to love those wines back in the 80s, but I don't like those wines at all anymore. We don't use any new oak at all. We take our wine, when we go to Europe, we always take 3 cases of Verde Valley wine with us. And we did that before we had our own winery. And of course, now we take our own wine. The Europeans love the wine from the Verde Valley. I would say they especially love our wine. And they're shocked because they all say the same thing, that American wine shows no terroir. And that's because in California, they do so much. They manipulate the wine so much in the wineries. Like it's better wine through chemistry or whatever. That you completely lose the connection to the soil, to the terroir. And that is absolutely not true of our wine.
Wow.
And I say it's not true of Michael Pierce's wine or Chateau Tumbleweed or Page Springs or any of the wineries down south. In general, the fruit here really requires that you make an elegant style, old world style wine, or you're not making the wine correctly. It's just not any good.
Wow.
And as a result, when we take our wine to Europe, people who taste it say if they didn't know where it came from, they would think it was French. And these are mostly Italians and Spanish who hold French wine in extremely high regard. And stylistically, they all say, this wine is so beautiful. If we didn't know better, we would think we were drinking French wine. We submit our wines every year to the San Francisco Chronicle and also the San Francisco International Wine Competitions.
And we have won over 200 medals in 4 years. So we're
that's
proud of our
fantastic.
wines.
Yeah.
That's
I
great.
mean, they just keep winning. Isn't that wonderful?
That's
That
what,
is.
I want to go, going with you all on a wine tasting trip would be like going with an art connoisseur to the museum.
Yeah.
I want to go with you.
That's neat.
That's amazing.
It truly is a lot more fun when you know a lot about it. And what I love about Europe is that, most of the wineries don't have tasting rooms. So, you're out in the countryside somewhere and you're at a little restaurant and you're drinking a wine that you paid six euros for a liter, and it's in a pitcher, on the table, and
Oh,
it's
how funny.
absolutely
What?
spectacular.
Uh,
And, those little restaurants are always friends with the people who made that wine. I mean, it's all local, uh, local agriculture, and they're very supportive of each other. And it's a big deal to get your wine as a winery, to get your wine on a list at a restaurant for house wine. In America, house wine is the cheapest stuff they can buy. In Italy, wineries all compete against each other to have a wine selected to be a house wine at a good restaurant.
Wow.
I mean,
and
it is it's
Yeah.
a completely different environment.
that's so fascinating. I mean, and your wine seems so complex. Walk us through and walk our listeners through, what a growing season would be like, from the planting, the watering, irrigating, through the difficult times to the harvesting. What does that look like?
I'll start with telling you what we're doing right now, okay? Because the plants are still mostly dormant. This has been such a crazy winter. It's been super warm, and now it's not even getting cold enough at night to keep the vines in dormancy. And we're not finished pruning. And we typically prune late. I like to be done by the end of March, but this year, the last 2 or 3 weeks has been in the 80s every day. And sure, it gets down to 40 degrees at night. But that's it, the cold hours are not enough right now to keep the vines in dormancy. So we're really rushing to get everything pruned. And we have to prune all of the shoots, especially all of the shoots that had fruit on them. You have to grow new shoots every year to be fruit-bearing shoots, and you don't leave the old ones on there. You cut them off, and then they regrow. And so we're in the process of doing that, and we are trying to get it all finished before we start seeing leaves. And as I told you, I just got a whole Freightliner load of sulfur. It's elemental sulfur. It's dry. We'll put it on the ground, with the fertilizer spreader. And what happens is a combination of water, like when it rains, and also the biome, all the living things in the soil, will break that sulfur down and create sulfuric acid. And the sulfuric acid will then work on breaking up the carbonate in the soil. And that frees up nutrients, both for the plants and for all the things living in the soil that need to live there to nourish the plants. So anyway, we're working on that right now. Once we have bud break, we have to hope that we do not have any really super cold nights. I think 3 or 4 years ago, we had a really warm spring, well, it's not even spring yet, but we're almost having summertime weather. And we had weather like that. And so, all the vines popped leaves, and then we got a 17-degree night. And Page Springs lost almost everything in their House Mountain vineyard, a fabulous vineyard, because all the leaves got frozen off, and I mean that's a huge problem every year. It's a really big problem down in Sonoyta. It's not quite as much in Wilcox, but they do still have some varieties push leaves much earlier than others. Like Viognier is a very early bud break grape, and that's another thing that vineyard owners have to think about when they're planting. What grapes are safe to plant? Which ones are you going to lose half the years because a cold snap comes and they're already budded out, and you have severe damage. Anyway, that's going to be a real problem this year because we're going to have early bud break. And hopefully we won't have one of those really cold nights. But, you can have a 15-degree night in mid-May. I mean, it's that's what happened 3 or 4 years ago here. And, you just have to keep your fingers crossed that we don't have that. There's not really anything we can do about it. A couple of vineyards do have wind turbines in their vineyards to try to blow the cold air out so it doesn't just sit there and damage the vines. But most of the vineyards don't have that, and it's very expensive to do it. We don't have smudge pots and things like that. You'll see movies where people are lighting smudge pots, or they have some kind of heaters that they put into the vineyards. You can imagine how labor intensive that would be and how expensive it would be to do that. I don't know of anybody that's doing that in Arizona. But we're just pretty much, at the mercy of weather for that. So anyway, once the shoots grow, you have to go back through the vineyard and you have to tie up all the shoots. You have to have everything in position so that it can hold weight and so that the wind doesn't snap off the new shoots. They have to be tied to trellis wires. That's a lot of labor. During that time, you're continuing to do soil samples and petiole samples. In other words, you take leaves and send them to Mott's laboratory down in South Phoenix to have them analyze the petioles to see what nutrition is missing from the grapevines. Because no matter what you do with the soil samples, you might have things available in the soil that somehow don't make it into the plants, and maybe you have to do a spray where you're doing spraying the vines to give them nourishment through the leaves later in the season. And you're also doing things to prevent insects and other blight that might be occurring. You're constantly checking your vines to see if there's any problem that you need to take care of, because it can happen so fast that if you're not checking all the time, it can be too late. We've had a lot of trouble here in our vineyard with leaf skeletonizers. They're these little
Caterpillars.
well, no, that starts with flies, a type of a fly, looks like a fly, but then they lay eggs, and then we get these like 1 inch long green and yellow caterpillars, and they are voracious. They will just eat the leaves to pieces, and if you get them on your skin, they will start eating your skin. I mean, they're nasty little things. And
As I said, this is hard work.
Anyway, so last year we thought we were going to get our first really good harvest from our Solaire vineyard, which is on Cornville Road. There's about 6,500 vines in that vineyard, and it's all Ionico and Assyrtiko. and we thought we were going to have a pretty decent vintage or harvest for the first time. Cindy and I were in Italy visiting her family. On July 3rd, we had our very first rain, actually our first and only monsoon rain last year, and it was accompanied by very heavy hail.
In July 3rd.
July 3rd, and it destroyed all the fruit and most of the canopy in that vineyard. One of the other big vineyards here, Maynard Keenan's vineyard, Elefante, which is a 25-acre, very important vineyard here. He's had his fruit destroyed, I think 3 years in a row he did. So he started putting up, these very expensive hail nets. And because monsoon season hadn't started yet, they only had half of them up. They didn't have them all up yet. And so he only lost half the vineyard this past year with hail. So, I mean, it's just really a nasty thing. And this year, we're going to buy hail nets, and we're going to get them up early to make sure that doesn't happen. They will do double duty also to protect against birds, because birds have this innate ability to determine when the grapes are at the best sugar-wise and everything, ripeness-wise, and they'll clean out a vineyard overnight. So people spend a lot of money trying to figure out how to keep birds out of the vineyard.
Oh, gosh. How long is the entire growing season then from planting to harvesting?
Depends. I mean, you can get bud break. Let's say you get bud break in April. And
probably by September 1st we'll be picking, right?
No, by August 1st. Usually the first harvest can start as early as the third or fourth week of July. Some years we've had some years where it started a month later, maybe the third week of August. But traditionally, I would say it starts in earnest maybe the second week of August on average. That's when it starts. But depending on the varietal and where your vineyard is, you could be harvesting grapes in mid-October or even at the end of October. I think last year we harvested some a couple of different grapes from Golden Rule Vineyard, our dear friends down there. That I think we harvested November 3rd. Yeah. So it's not a short harvest season, and like I said, it depends on the location, but it also depends on the varietal. Some varietals ripen very early, and some ripen very late. So.
Well, like Cindy said, I'm concluding as well that farming is harder than building rockets.
And unpredictable, it sounds like, too.
Yeah, unpredictable, yes. Mm-hmm.
I want to tell you, Julie can tell you that I've been involved with the Farm Bureau. It's been about 8 years now, Julie.
Wow.
It's hard to believe it's been that long. I'm on the board of the Yavapai County Farm Bureau, and last year I was on the board of the State Farm Bureau. I can't tell you how much respect I have for all of those people. First of all, they're extremely intelligent, hardworking people, but they're also the finest people I've ever known in my life. I'm so proud. Ben Mingus was just at the State of the Union meeting, and a young rancher, fantastic human being. He and his wife are just so special. The Mortimers, that I know really well up here, that own Mortimer Farms. I just can't believe all the stuff that they do and the hard work and everything they're involved in. Their entire family. I'm so happy to see their daughters really blossoming in that business. And, I'm very jealous that I don't have that same kind. Cindy and I don't have the family to take over from us. So I don't know what we're going to do long term.
Well, one of the You have to stay young. The thing that Tammy and I always say to one another is that we love the people we work for because it's our farmers and ranchers, boots on the ground, and um, and then the diversity. You specialize in the dairy industry, but even from dairy family to dairy family, some of the unique things that they're doing with their dairy, and if they're fully integrated, they're growing their own crops. Just some of the things that we discover with that dairy family. It's so interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot more diversity these
Yeah.
days and innovation.
Innovation, a lot of innovation.
So, talking about growing your own crops, I mean, this is something that I really want to talk about. I already raised the issue of how virtually every grape varietal grows well in Arizona. There was some point in time when people kept saying, we need to have signature grapes. We need to have signature grapes. And I was very much against that because it's so much more exciting to be able to grow and make wine from this wide range of grapes, including some that are pretty obscure, that just happen to make fabulous wine here in Arizona. And I think I lost some part of my train of thought there. So I am not going to plant any more vines. This was my main point. It is too expensive to farm up here where I live. I'm very happy that I have over 12,000 vines, but if Cindy and I live to be 100, we will never get our money back from what we've spent planting these vines up here. There's just not any possibility of it. It is the signature thing to have your own fruit, but the risk that you take on when you're growing your own fruit is not worth it. There are great vineyards around the state of Arizona that I can buy fruit from every year, and I have zero risk of deep freeze, zero risk of hail, none of that. If vineyards are damaged severely because of weather, it's the vineyards that bear that risk, and not the wineries that are buying from them. And it's something you got to think about. I mean, we don't have enough money that we can afford to just do things because we think it's fun to do. We got to look at it like a business, and the risk is really a very huge risk when you have your own vineyard.
Well, and that's why you said at 11,999 vines at the 12,000 vine.
Yeah.
I'm going to stop. So,
I'm going to stop.
You're
right.
going to stop. And really, I kind of get a vibe. Some of them like the farming more than they like the winemaker, and they have to tap into a winemaker. But I am getting a vibe that a lot of our grape growing winemaker families, they're really getting a specialty in the winemaking itself and having the tasting rooms and having our Arizona families and people from out of state come out. I mean, the wine industry contributes incredible to our tourism industry here. It really draws a lot of people from out of state. And as they discover what Emil is talking about, and Cindy, on just the wonderful taste of these exquisite wines here in the state of Arizona, it's drawing people into our state. So that causes me to ask Cove Mesa, what's new? Okay, we now know you're not going to plant any more vines, but what's the latest and greatest? Anything new in the tasting room, by the way, which is in Cornville,
I will
right?
say, I will say, we just recently got our results from the San Francisco Chronicle wine competition, which is the #1 competition in the country. And we got 4 double golds, 5 golds, and 18 silvers.
Congratulations.
And
That's great.
I think there were 8 double golds in the whole state, and we got 4 of them.
Wow.
Pavle Milic, I don't know if you know who he is. He owns F&B restaurant in Scottsdale, a very famous restaurant. and he only sells Arizona wine on his wine list, which is great.
Excellent.
But he also has a winery that he started a few years ago down in Sonoyta, Elgin area called Los Milich.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me last year, when he saw that we had won a bunch of awards, and he said, Emil, he said, why do you send your, wines? Because it's very expensive to send your wine to these for these awards. I mean, $100 per wine.
You have to ship 4 bottles each.
Yeah, 4 bottles each. You have to pay to ship it, the cost of the wine. I mean, it's, for us, it's $10,000 to, to do that. And I said to him, I said, well, there are still a lot of people in Arizona who just assume that Arizona wine's not as good as California wine or, Oregon wine or whatever. And I said,
So
we've proven that is total BS, because we perform at the very highest level in the competitions. I mean, every wine we send wins awards. Every single wine wins awards.
Wow.
And we win a lot of top awards. I don't personally need that validation for our wine because I have an extremely high level of
Self-satisfaction.
I guess. Yeah. Well, I will not put any wine in a bottle that I would not want to drink myself. So
there you go.
Our standard is this wine good enough to sell? Our standard is it good enough for Emil? And my standards are way higher than just what's commercially marketable. And so for me, I don't need that validation, from the competitions. But it does show that we make as good a wine as anybody in the country. And, eventually the rest of the world will know that we're doing that. If we keep submitting wines to competitions and we keep taking top prizes, people will have to pay attention after a while,
That really would draw attention to Arizona and really elevate it amongst those that are producing wine. And having done this for as long as you have now, what kind of changes have you seen over the course of time?
This is a really interesting thing. I'm very aggravated with a lot of stuff I see on Facebook and even in wine press and so forth. Wine sales are down. Okay, overall, wine sales are down. But I don't think it's sales of wine of the quality we make and the type we make.
Are not down.
Yeah, our sales are not down.
Yeah, they, like you said, they've been. But here's why we can celebrate Arizona wine, and Cove Mesa, Emil and Cindy Mullen are part of that, making these unique wines with these wonderful grape varieties. And for our listeners, I would highly encourage them to literally, metaphor intended, dig into this so that you can discover some of these amazing award-winning wines that are right here in Arizona, and they're by our families like the Emil and Cindy Mullins of the world. So my final question for you, Emil, is to break down for our listeners, especially, maybe they've got some of the European old wine insights like you do because they've gone to Europe, maybe not quite as many times as you and Cindy, but close to it. But what would you give them counsel to try out some of these Arizona wines like Cove Mesa, even if they have kind of this expert wine experience?
I think a lot of it has to do with, well, first of all, if you come to our tasting room, we have 50 different wines available.
Wow.
In our tasting room.
That are all made by Cove Mesa.
Yeah, they're all Arizona fruit,
Wow.
and they're all made by Cove Mesa.
And they are wonderful.
And,
I haven't had all 50, but they are wonderful wines.
Yeah, so I would say, for example, there are restaurants and tasting rooms that have done blind tastings of our wines, like our Chardonnay, for example, uh, along with French Chardonnay, Chablis, uh, and nobody ever picks ours as the non-French wine. Um, I think, and especially, so we're having a wine dinner at Up the Creek Bistro and Wine Bar tonight. Actually, we have 60 some people coming for dinner tonight. And Up the Creek is the best restaurant in the Verde Valley, a fabulous restaurant. The menu's incredible. And it's the best way to really appreciate wine, because in Italy, for example, wine is considered to be food. It is made to be drunk with their local food. And, in Italy, maybe in some regions, they've been making wine for over 2,000 years. And so the wine they make and the food, that they grow and prepare have been side by side and intermingled for over 2,000 years. And so they are a perfect match. I mean, they show off each other's charms. And that's really what food and wine are supposed to be about. And, some of our double gold winners, people come in and they want the double gold or the gold winners, because they read about that somewhere. Well, one of my favorite wines is only got a silver medal. And of all of the wines we have, we're serving that with kitchen smoked medium rare rack of elk tonight. And I tried all of these different red wines, and the one that just blew everything away was this Cabernet from Carlson Creek Vineyard down in Wilcox. I mean, that's where the fruit came from. And you really have to have it with food to really understand how special it is and exactly what it is.
And that is why wine is so much fun, like pairing the wine with the food, talking. And I can taste wine and get different types of things versus what Emil has, like nothing is right, wrong. It is interesting, fun. It is just, yeah.
Yeah. I will say we've had, because we're here in Arizona, where most of the people that have been drinking wine for a long time have kind of grown up drinking California wine. And so they have an idea in their mind about what wine is supposed to taste like. And they come into our tasting room and say, I want your biggest, boldest red, or I love heavy oak in a wine or whatever. Well, we don't make anything like either one of those two things. But after they
taste it, and then they just say, "Oh my goodness, this tastes wonderful." Why does it taste like this?
It doesn't.
What did you do?
It doesn't take long before they become devotees. I mean,
that's great.
It's almost like you go through a re-education, re-enlightenment, reawaken taste buds that have maybe gotten off track a little bit.
And
just one thing I wanted to say, you wanted to know what was new. I won't mention their name right now because I don't want to jinx it, but we're having discussions with a really top distributor, which we need a distributor. I've been self-distributing, and it's not efficient enough for what we need to do. And secondly, Cafe Monarch, I don't know if you know that restaurant. It is in Scottsdale, and according to TripAdvisor, it's one of the top 3 restaurants in the United States. And having just had a meal there for Cindy's birthday at the end of January, I can tell you it was probably the best meal I've had in 20 years. Unbelievable restaurant. They have $20,000 bottles of wine on their wine list. They have 15 Cove Mesa wines on their wine list.
Oh, that's
so
amazing.
They're director of wine, John Germain, is one of the most demanding. You can talk to anybody in the wine industry. He cuts off distributor reps who come and bring him wine that he thinks is substandard, that they've wasted his time on stuff that they should know he wouldn't want. He loves my wine,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
and he's used to drinking mostly European wine. Okay, you know, and he loves our wine.
I was going to ask Cindy about her wine tasting, actually, and how she would introduce to a new
A new
someone
wine,
new
yeah,
to
new to it.
wine,
That's what I was
how
going to ask
you
too.
would conduct a tasting.
So it doesn't matter whether you're new to wine or like old. We have over 50 different wines. There is a wine that would fit.
Oh,
And like there are some bachelorettes that come that love the sweet wine. We have fantastic, and they're so happy. And then there's a person from the Napa Valley that like wants a big red. We can find him or her reds. That is our job.
yeah.
And we are open every day, every holiday too. I am there almost every day. It is.
And Cindy is also a
We
good
have
cook,
fun.
by the way.
Sometimes.
So listen, you asked about the first learning about wine. When I met Cindy in 1986, she was not very wine knowledgeable. I was already extremely wine knowledgeable at that point, but she caught up very fast. Now she's not as much of a geek as I am, so she's not going to spend several hours researching something on the internet about a wine, like I do about something that I've just learned about or tasted or whatever. But she has a fabulous palate. And in fact, women in general have more discerning palates than men do in general.
I'm so not surprised.
Yeah. And
we're better at everything, right, ladies?
yeah. So I would say in general, Cindy knows what she likes. And she is very, when we taste wine, when we're working on tasting notes or whatever, Cindy has a great palate, and she can detect all of these different things in the wines, and she knows exactly what she likes. And we tell everyone, I'm really unhappy with a lot of these sommeliers and these people who get most of their education through online courses and stuff that try to make out like there's something really special, and they make the average wine drinker feel inferior, because they insist on using terminology that normal people don't use. They want to tell you what wines smell like and taste like without letting you determine for yourself what they smell like and taste like. And to me, it's really a negative thing. And we have started, like when we have our wine club dinners, we have a female winemaker, Tiffany Mincaci, who is spectacular. And she and I taste different things and smell different things in wine. So if she's writing tasting notes for something, they're frequently substantially different than mine. And so we've started reading both of those at our wine dinners. So
awesome.
we can show people that two very knowledgeable people can have completely different opinions about what this wine is.
And it doesn't matter. No one's wrong. No one's
right. Wrong, right.
They are. It is just different tastes that the people get.
Yeah, and people should be encouraged to express themselves. Even if they're just beginners, they should be encouraged to express themselves. What do you taste and smell in this wine? And what is it about this wine that you like? Because that's something you need to remember for next time to make sure you don't get a wine you don't like.
Right.
That's all it's about.
Well, Emil and Cindy, this has been so insightful, and I'm glad you finished on that, because I have to tell you, sometimes I'm a little bit intimidated by trying to be a little bit sophisticated about how I taste, and you guys have encouraged me on that. But let's have you back.
And
Let's
we need to make a road trip.
Yeah,
Go over there and taste
yes,
the wines.
and
Yeah.
and you will love it. I've been there twice now, and every time it's just been a celebration of real quality wine. So, Emil and Cindy, thank you so much. Let's stay in touch, and I'll maybe see you at the next Yavapai County Farm Bureau meeting or something like that.
Yes, well, you'll see me at Ag Fest for
Oh,
sure.
that's right. Yeah. Good.
And yes, and we are hosting the March 18th meeting of the Yavapai County Farm Bureau
Oh,
at our tasting room.
There
maybe
you go.
that's
I
when
may
we
be an
should.
honorary Farm
Yeah,
Bureau person that day.
you
Yes.
should.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should
Well,
go.
Tim Peterson is on our board, and of course, he's very active with the Cattlemen's Association.
Yep.
I know that's a different thing than the milk producers, but um, we have a lot of cross
Crossover. Yep.
membership in
Yep.
in the Farm Bureau. So
Cross
anyway,
pollination.
And our dairy farmers
yeah.
too. So
Yeah.
thanks again, Cindy and Emil, and
Thank you.
enjoy. Well, we'll celebrate with you. We won't be there, but we're going to cheer you on that dinner this evening. Sounds
Yeah. Thank you
fantastic.
so much.
Well, thank
you guys
you.
were
Thank
great.
you.
We loved it.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you guys.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.